Things to buy now for 2023. Yeah, that sounded good. Problem is, I can't tell you what you need to buy. I don't know you or your situation. But what I can do is I can tell you what I think's coming, why I think it's coming, and what I'm going to buy. And for yourself, if you know what's coming, then you can figure out what things you need to get. I'm not going all doom and gloom here, but we have begun a period where there's going to be a lot of rapid changes. Some of them good, some of them bad. It's change, which change is going to happen no matter what. That's the only constant. With that said, a lot of those changes are going to impact our lives, and the major changes we're looking at first is the end of globalization. It's breaking up right now with China kind of going its way, along with Russia. India's kind of doing its thing, siding more with Russia and China. Western nations, they're kind of going their separate way. All right, so that whole globalization thing and world trade's kind of falling apart at the moment. That's going to be very inflationary in the future. We also have population declines in most Western nations. Most nations, it isn't even Western. China's really fixing to suffer a big population decline. That's labor shortages, okay, more inflation. We have a lot of energy issues. Those are self-created, but that's beside the point. Still, with rising energy costs, that's inflationary. And then we're going to have a shortage of capital with the baby boomers retiring. All of the money they had put into stocks, 401ks, that type of thing, that money is being transferred into really safe stuff like T-bills. That's going to reduce the amount of capital available for investments for new factories and infrastructure. We have a lot of inflationary things coming our way, plus all of the just enormous national debts that so many countries have now. I was going to say Western nations, but this is worldwide. So right now, long term, it's looking like inflation and lots of it. So that's something we can prepare for now. And with that said, though, I'm not saying hyperinflation. Anything's possible, but we're probably going to have deflationary periods in there also. For myself, I've decided it really doesn't matter inflation or deflation. The result's the same. It doesn't matter if you've got a lot of money in your pocket, but you still can't afford stuff because of inflation. It still costs too much. Or if you don't have any money in your pocket and you can't afford stuff, even if it's cheap. It doesn't matter either way, you can't afford it. So inflation or deflation is irrelevant. But it is looking like inflation. All right, so what do we need to do now to prepare for all of these changes in inflation? Or what can we buy now to better position ourselves for that? Now for the things I'm going to buy. Okay, for myself in particular, there's two areas I'm paying close attention to, or two things I'm keeping in mind when I decide what to purchase now. And the very first thing is raw materials, actual, real, physical things. Brass, copper and lead, steel. All right, these are real things. And a lot of us now, we spend a lot of time watching videos, and hey, that's great. I encourage you to watch more. I can recommend a good channel for you. And hopefully you're learning some things from it, and information is important. With that said, though, we live in a real world, and it doesn't seem like it now because of social media, but as prices start going up and we start getting more shortages in the future, it's going to become more apparent. So with that said, and the end of globalization, so many of our base materials come from different parts of the world. Well, that's going to create problems if you need things made from those raw materials. Here in the U.S., as far as I know, we don't have any steel mills left, at least for raw steel. We're really good at recycling. We're the world's best at recycling steel. But then our raw steel, literally pig iron from iron ore, is coming from overseas, and then we're refining it here, or at least that's my understanding. All right, so we just don't have the capacity now to process metals. All right, and then you get into the labor needed to mine metals and things like that. Brass. There's a lot of copper in brass. Price of copper is going to get expensive in the future. Has to be processed. And then in the case of, for firearms, I enjoy shooting. I want cartridges, brass for reloading on hand. I know these are going to get more expensive in the future. And they're expensive now. It's just I'm going to keep an eye out for the cartridges I shoot and enjoy, and the cartridges that I plan on getting rifles for in the future. The rifles I don't think are going to be nearly as expensive as the ammo. But the rifles are going to go up in price as well. Bullets. I can still use lead bullets here in my state, so I haven't gone all copper. We have lead inside of bullets. Well, a lot of people don't like lead anymore. They're trying to get rid of it. Not much lead manufacturing going on in the United States or many Western nations. It's going to get more expensive, harder to get, and it requires labor to mine it and process it. And then you've got all the regulatory stuff that goes along with processing the lead. Okay, and regulations, that's a big part of all this. It's also going to add to our inflationary pressures with so many declaring war on cheap energy for the masses. Right, to process steel, it requires a ton of energy. A lot of that came from fossil fuels in the past, and a lot of people trying to get rid of that now. More inflation. Tools, quality tools to work on stuff with. I want to make sure I got my tools and I'm where I want to be on those. I was just working on a vehicle that I'm doing for my other channel, Living Simple with Tom. There's some stuff I'm playing with there. I needed a set of wrenches to get to one nut. I had to have that flexible end here to get to that one nut. I went and bought a set of wrenches. That set of wrenches was $200 at Harbor Freight. I hadn't even priced them anywhere else. I'm afraid to. I needed the tools. I went on and bit the bullet and got them. I want to make sure I'm well stocked on my tools. Okay, and any actual material things I need now. But the great thing about the material things is they last. And they're going to be with us for a long time. So I feel like for myself, stocking up on brass and things, even as high as it is, it's an investment. Okay, so that's one thing I'm keeping in mind. And the next thing, rugged simplicity. All right, 22 here. I've shown this on the channel before. This is my old Remington 514. This one was made in 1948, the first year it came out. And this was given to me as a gift. His family friend, his home had burned, and he lost most of his firearms. This one survived the fire. And essentially it's rough and nobody else wanted it. So they just gave this to me. I was a teenager. And I was tickled to get it. It worked. And then I refinished it and redid the wood. And the only thing on this that got destroyed was the plastic butt plate. And I replaced it. Okay, my point with this though, is it is simple. And it keeps working, and it's been working. The only thing broken on this right now is the extractor. It's never worked on here, and I never even thought about replacing it because all I had, single shot, all I had to do is reach in and just grab the rim of the case, 22, pull it out, put a new one in. And I took a lot of squirrels and rabbits with this. Okay, today we have gotten so used to just being able to buy any part for anything at any time that a lot of our stuff's gotten a lot more complex. It's a lot nicer. Semi-automatics, ARs, great firearms, very accurate, lots of firepower. But in the near future, I'm going to say for at least the next decade, and then who knows what's going to happen after that. Parts are going to get more expensive and harder to find, and the more parts that anything you own has, that's something to break. All right, so the simpler something can be, the more robust it can be, I think, the better. And we have enough ARs in this country that there's no chance of us running out of parts anytime soon. Lots of parts there. But a lot of those parts are made out of real things. They have to be manufactured. It requires energy, it requires labor, it requires capital for the factories to make those parts. China's going away, and we can already see, trade issues with China. The parts are going to get a lot more expensive. So little simple things that in the past, if it broke, okay, no big deal. I just run to the store and go get a new part to replace that little whatever part. It's not going to be as simple in the future, or at least it sure doesn't appear like it's going to be that simple. All right, so anything we can do to simplify the things we have and go with more robust designs, I think it's worth the extra investment now to go on and make sure, in the case of firearms, to make sure you have at least one simple, robust firearm that you don't have to worry about a part breaking on and you having to replace the part. Same way with tools. Right? Tools. We want simple, basic, just robust tools. And knives. Okay, I've got my little Swiss Army knife here that I like. I've talked about it in depth before. It's handy as it can be. I've got a good edge on it, and little tools come in really handy. Phillips screwdrivers, straight head screwdriver, bottle opener, can opener, extremely handy. But it's not all that robust or rugged compared to a fixed blade. Okay, this knife I've had for some years, but I know I'm not going to have this one for the 30 or 40 years to come like I've had this one for 30 or 40 years, and this little fillet knife here is going to be good for another 30 or 40 years. A fixed blade knife is just more robust and rugged than a folding knife. Just nature of the beast. We do get a lot of conveniences and benefits from our more versatile, less robust things, like being able to put all those accessories on an AR. I mean, it's nice, it's fun, it's handy. It adds to the functionality in many cases. But when you can't get parts anymore, this is going to keep working. And this will keep working. So I'm just keeping that in mind for myself as far as while I'm picking out items. I want as few as parts as possible, and things that if something did have to be replaced, I could do it myself, or I could repair an item rather than replace it. I guess that's the main thing I'm trying to say there. I know I was pretty vague there and covered a lot of ground, but just to give you an idea of the implications for the stuff I just said. I ran down to Harbor Freight yesterday to pick up a set of wrenches to get, because I needed that one type wrench for one bolt vehicle I was working on. Right now, our trade relations, our relations with China, period, are falling apart. We got military tensions with Taiwan, not to mention, as a producer, China's going away for the world. Their population's in the process of just absolutely collapsing. Their one-child policy is catching up with them population-wise. That China is done. All right, so China's going away. Not now, not tomorrow, but the next few years, they're going to be gone. China goes away, Harbor Freight goes away. All right, without Harbor Freight, I have no idea where I would go to pick up a set of wrenches like this locally. I mean, I used to could go to a lot of places, and there are a lot of different options. Craftsman, I always loved Craftsman. Craftsman's made in China now. Craftsman's going away with China going away. Okay, Snap-on, I could have found a Snap-on truck, but I sure would hate to have to take out a second mortgage on my house to buy a set of Snap-on wrenches. But that's what we're looking at in the future, is having, tools literally being Snap-on prices for everything. Right. That's how profound this is. Okay, and it's going to change where we buy things, how we buy things. And I'm not even sure how that's going to play out. It's just we won't be going to Harbor Freight. And then that goes back to why I'm focusing on what I'm focusing on. And take that a step further. Europe's economy is in the process of falling apart. because of the split between Europe and Russia now. So that's pretty much the end of cheap natural gas from Russia. Germany's economy falls apart. It's going to take Europe with it. Will I be able to buy a Victorinox Swiss Army knife if the economy of Switzerland's just collapsed? A lot of changes going forward, a lot of changes in products, and not all bad. A lot of countries are going to be reindustrializing, like here in the U.S., so there's going to be some really good jobs in construction, building those new factories. A lot of really good jobs in the factories that are going to be coming back here because of globalization ending. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's just going to be a lot of costs also. So raw materials, copper, brass, lead, steel, and then simple things that are going to be robust. I'm not going to have to run down to Harbor Freight to pick up something or order something real quick offline, cheap, made in China. It's not going to be there in the future. And I might not be able to afford it if it is, depending on what inflation does. All right, so I hope that gave a lot of y'all something to think about as far as for your Christmas shopping this year. Simple, durable, real things. That's what I'm focusing on. And I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I almost forgot. I said that we were going to be betting a rifle stock today. That was my plan. But the screw I ordered for it that I needed to do the betting job, it hadn't arrived yet. More disruptions. And I have no idea where I could go locally to find that size bolt that I could cut the head off to make do with whatever. We just don't have hardware stores like we used to. Or at least they don't have the selection they used to of nuts and bolts. Things are changing. All right, but we're going to try to get to that betting job next week. God bless and have a wonderful day.